Hi, welcome to NVC Connect. I'm Adi Mihalcha, and my guest today is Liv Larsson from Sweden. Hi, Liv. Thank you so much for joining us today. Is there something that comes up more often than the rest when you speak with people who seek your support and guidance? A subject coming over and over again?
Well, I think it is, but maybe because I am so focused on working with shame and guilt that, of course, people connect with me because they know I work with this. But also, I have started to value so much to help people see that we don't need to avoid shame or guilt. We need to reframe it. We need to befriend it. We need to befriend those strong and uncomfortable emotions and see the beauty in the center of those, see the beauty of what they can bring us if we embrace them rather than to kind of run away from them, avoid them. So I guess those subject comes up more often than others, just also because I'm curious about it myself.
Yeah, because your focusing is on this subject. But I wonder, how did this subject become important to you and you decided to start sharing more about this niche, let's say?
Yeah. So for me, nonviolent communication really helped with anger because I would hold on to things. So when I got angry, I really got angry. And that was, I made a mess in relationships and friends and so on. I needed to clean up all the mess I created with that kind of bursting out anger. So I really learned to value more when my needs came up and were not met, to speak about them earlier. So I didn't, stuff the anger down and then the volcano will erupt. And then I saw that there were some moments when I couldn't really transform it. It was kind of just changing into another form. But I had this self-identity that said, I don't feel guilt. I don't feel shame. And Marshall said, never do anything to avoid shame or guilt. I said, well, that's no problem because I don't feel it. I don't have shame or guilt. That I'm kind of beyond that. I was in a very, that's kind of sensitive people. That's kind of people who are feeling so much more than I do. I used to say that I'm calm, cool, and collected. So that was kind of my persona, my identity. And then there were a few occasions where I realized this is not at all true. I was feeling shame so much, but I was just so fast in avoiding it. I was just not standing, pausing, stopping to really feel it, but I had already avoided it before I, could catch it. So then I got really curious. How come I run away from this? What is it that I'm not wanting to see? And then I started, reading about shame, and I started writing diaries about my own shame moments, and learned how much I actually do feel shame most of the time when I'm interacting with people. When I couldn't really transform it, it was kind of just changing into another form. But I had this self-identity that said, I don't feel guilt. I don't feel shame. And Marshall said, never do anything to avoid shame or guilt. I said, well, that's no problem because I don't feel it. I don't have shame or guilt. That I'm kind of beyond that. I was in a very, that's kind of sensitive people. That's kind of people who are feeling so much more than I do. I used to say that I'm calm, cool, and collected. So that was kind of my persona, my identity. And then there were a few occasions where I realized this is not at all true. I was feeling shame so much, but I was just so fast in avoiding it. I was just not standing, pausing, stopping to really feel it, but I had already avoided it before I, could catch it. So then I got really curious. How come I run away from this? What is it that I'm not wanting to see? And then I started, reading about shame, and I started writing diaries about my own shame moments, and learned how much I actually do feel shame most of the time when I'm interacting with people. There are shame moments coming up every now and then.
Why is it in your opinion, why is it challenging to deal with shame and guilt, and to the point that we don't acknowledge that we have these feelings?
Mm. Well, at least when it comes to shame, I would say, well, both shame and guilt, we're avoiding, first of all, because they're so uncomfortable. I mean, they're really, they kind of really kill the life inside. It's just, it could be mixed with lots of fear and just uncomfortable. And then when it comes to shame, because shame was this emotion that kind of, it's a social feeling. It's something that helps us connect with the group that we belong to. It helps us take in consideration other people's needs in the group where we belong to. In a few 100,000 years back, we were so dependent on being part of a group that actually being thrown out of a group meant death. Doing something that would risk the whole group would risk you being not accepted by the group, and then being thrown out meant that you would not survive. So that, I think that for many people, the fear of dying and the shame is so still in our neurological system. It's so interconnected that even feeling shame of a small thing can really make people say, like, oh, I hope no one saw me. It's like, I wish I was gone from this, because I don't want people to see me in this place, because it's such a big risk. I will not be accepted. I won't be able to belong. I won't be able to, come back to a sense of dignity. So there is a lot at stake with this feeling, or at least in our biological system, it says there is a lot at risk. And actually, maybe there is not so much at risk, but the system reacts as if it's really, really dangerous.
So I'm understanding that people avoid being seen as vulnerable, and they want to show people that they have power over their behavior or feelings or what is happening around them.
Yeah. And they want to be seen as capable. They want to be seen as someone that is worthy of love, worthy of acceptance. And so the fear will be, oh, we're not gonna survive this vulnerability. So it's a very tender place when we are willing to pause and really feel it.
But is it truly this opposition of vulnerability and power, that if you have the other one, you can't have the other? What's your opinion on that?
No, I think they're very much possible to have in one person and in one moment, because at the core of vulnerability is this, as I call vulnerability anyway, is this super ability to really connect with life, to connect with my needs, connect with your needs. So to me, that is to be powerful, to be able to connect to what does life need in this moment to kind of flourish, and to be creative about strategies. For me, that is being really powerful, to be able to act, because when I'm vulnerable, I'm usually also realizing I don't need to avoid shame, because at the core of shame is this vulnerability. So for me, that is pure power.
And how would be the first step for someone who is trying to understand this concept and is trying actually to apply?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think it's really helpful to learn to know the shame signals in the body, and they're same for everyone, but they show up a little bit stronger. Like some people blush, some people will have this shame smile. You will feel it around the mouth, and they will try not to show it. Some people will feel it around their eyes. They don't want to look up. They don't want to look at people because it's really uncomfortable. Some people feel more in their arms and legs, like warm flushes, or in the belly. So just learning to feel it in the physical form And then realizing, well, it's just emotions. And then pausing there to embrace that. To me, that is the first one of the first steps. I would say, if we have avoided it already, we don't feel it in our bodies. So then we will need to know the avoidance patterns. What do we do to avoid it? So that's what I call. I use a model that I named the compass of needs, describing these main 4 ways of avoiding shame.
Yeah, you talk about that compass in anger, guilt, and shame. Your book, one of your books. Would you like to share to our audience just a little bit, just a taste of this compass?
Yeah, it's quite simple. So at one axis, the west-east axis, is the question, whose fault is it? So when we feel shame, the question is, whose fault is it that we feel so much discomfort? So then I would either blame myself, say it's all my fault, or I blame the other, it's your fault. And usually we go in between those. And on the other axis, on the north-south axis, it's more the question, who has the power to change this? Who has the power to do something about it? So on one hand, we will submit and say, I have no power in this. I cannot do anything about it. I better withdraw. I better just go away from that uncomfortable shame moment. Or I rebel and make myself kind of hard, cool, calm, collected, and just say, I'm not so weak. I don't care what other people think about me. I am fine, even if they laugh at my most beautiful poems or whatever, because I'm tough. So we use usually one of those 4 or 2 of those 4 or all of them to not go to that shame moment.